Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Samael. Satan, I ask for your divine guidance to open the gates of infernal wisdom for the listener. Satan, rise from hell to your rightful throne above the stars of heaven and those who cast truth asunder. Leviathan, Belial, Azazel, let your knowledge shine brightly to light the way in this world subdued by ignorance. Lucifer, we build your altar of illumination amongst the thorns and thistles of lascivious hate and await your seed. Shaitan, we have come to sow our seeds into barren chambers and usher your satanic arrival triumphant. Zepar, Balan, Raum, Cain, Perta, demons of old, come forth and reveal your wisdom and fulfill your desires. Consecro, Satanas, we shall boldly rip their temple veil from bottom to top and procure your celestial tribunal. Antichrist, seed of Lucifer, we shall await your arrival to inherit your kingdom. Satan, devour their dominion and break their vassal chains of our silence to allow truth to finally be known to all. Nephilim of old, disgrace and dishonor those who called unblemished and chosen, finally revealing their hoax, defamation, and true motivations. Astaroth, cast down their star so that it will be shattered, splintered, and scattered forever among the ephemeral winds. Asmodeus, the dust of pulverized bones shall pave the established pathway of satanic enlightenment. Satan, never again shall their lies be considered factual, their propaganda, lecherous attacks, and fallacious bloodlines revealed. Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Asmodeus, bestow your satanic blessings upon us. So mote it be.
Welcome, everyone. This is Aleister Nacht. Thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to spend a little time with me tonight. We've got a really big show tonight, I guess a big episode. A lot of good stuff here, and I'm so glad that you're with me tonight. Before we get started, I have to thank my Patreons. My Patreons made this possible. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Without you, this wouldn't happen. Also, I'm very excited. I captured the map for geo-tracking for this event, and it looks like we have people from almost all over the world that are joining us or have at least signed up for the episode tonight. So I'm very excited about that. The work that I'm trying to do is a global ministry, and I'm hoping that it brings value to people all over the world. So that's my true desire, and I ask Satanas for his blessing in this as we go about doing the Father's work. In the news, I don't know if you saw a recent episode on Hell and Horns, which is Kendra's show. Kendra's with us tonight. But it was real good. It was called On the Chopping Block, and it made a lot of sense to me because there are so many people out there, so many scammers are out there, and you know what? They need to be called out on it. There's just too much bullshit out there, and they did a real good job of it. So if you haven't watched that episode, go over and take a look at it. You'll be glad you did. And then also I published a blog on YouTube called Scams and Scammers. And so you can go over and take a look at it. I put this picture in kind of tongue-in-cheek. Kendra was talking about all these new witches that are out there. And, it was kind of funny, scantily clad and, no clothes, no brains, just, plenty of cleavage and no message, so to speak. So this is dedicated to you. I thought that was pretty funny. So go over and check that video out. It's good, kind of humorous, and it was Friday night, I believe. So go over and check it out. Also, since a lot of you have joined me since the last time, I've actually started merchandising. Thank you, Marie, for that great advice. So I've got all kinds of things over there, cups and masks, obviously, and stuff like that. But the one thing that I wanted to be sure to get out there was I've had a lot of questions about being able to get the MP3 of Shadow of the Dragon from the Descent into Madness album. And so, it's out there on Amazon, but you have to buy the whole CD. However, now it's available in MP3, and this is something that I could not do anywhere else on any other platform. And so I'm offering that up to everyone now. In fact, all of the tracks from the album are there. So if you don't want the entire album, you can kind of pick and choose what you would like. So, and that is dedicated to Cindy. She really, really wanted a copy of this for a long time. Something, besides a CD that she could just buy and put on her phone. She said she could listen to it over and over and over again. So, satanic blessings to you, Cindy. There it is. So, enjoy. Also, big in the news, last night I held the first Satanic Conclave. And I've wanted to do this for a really long time. And so it's finally coming to fruition. And, all I can say is this is a desire of my heart. I've wanted to do this for so long because there seems to be a gap between searchers who are searching for Satanism or devil worship, not atheism, but devil worship, and satanic priest. So there's a kind of a disconnect between going from just a practitioner to a satanic priest. And my satanic priest course helps you do that. However, after that, there was really no support. So you kind of got this certificate, you got the unholy blessing, and you were on your way. However, there was really not a lot of information out there to help you set up your ministry and to, hopefully not make the mistakes that I have made over the years. And so this is a wonderful way to be able to do that, as well as actually using this as a steering committee for our priests, our satanic priests of Magnum Opus, and obviously other covens as well, to come together in one place, discuss the topics of the day, kind of help formulate the message, help one another at the satanic priest level. And so it was very good. We talked about kind of the state of affairs now, and where we hope to go. I plan to have 6 of these per year. The next one will be in April. So if you're on my Patreon and you're interested in this, just drop me a comment and let me know. This was exclusive to the people who have completed my course. However, after consideration and also after talking extensively with Malthorpe, thank you, brother, I've decided to maybe open this up and have other people come into it. Again, this is for the priest who is, trying to find their way, trying to find their footing in the business world, also in social media. And I'm not saying I have all the answers, but I do think that we have a very good group of people, of individuals, and bringing in other people with certain expertise will certainly help benefit this. So again, we're going about the Father's work in this, and He blessed me tremendously last night. We had a discussion before the event ever happened, which was fantastic. And, I did not record it because there was, obviously sensitive information on there, but we had a fantastic time. And so thank you for those that attended, and look for more to come. So I put a poll here, and the poll just asked, do you use sigils in your magical practice? And so right now we have 7 votes for yes, and we have 2 votes for no. So, it's a good gauge. I would say that this is probably a good representation of the, Satanist devil worship area. And so, predominantly, most people do use them. Now, it's how they use them that is unique to their particular practice. So, thank you for participating. If you haven't participated in the poll, please do take a second. Let's just capture that feedback here, and toward the end, I'll bring that information back up, and we'll take a look at it. So, thank you, everyone. A lot of chat here. I want to point out a couple of folks. One of them, well, I guess both of them had to drop offline here, but Dark Disciple, who is actually a member of Magnum Opus. Thank you, brother, for joining in. He's got to go out tonight and take care of some stuff. So, and then Domino Richter. Now, you may not know her, and you certainly may not recognize the name, but you would recognize her voice. She does some of these satanic prayers that are in my videos. So bless her. Thank you so much for swinging by. I know you can't stay, but thank you very much. So again, it's nice to have those people here. And again, you may not know them, but you've certainly heard their voice, both of them, on my videos saying the satanic prayers. As a matter of fact, they are in the prayer at the beginning of each one of my events here. So thank you for dropping by. All right, so tonight we're going to talk about sigils. And again, sigils can be used in so many different ways. So this is not about trying to be an expert on sigils or providing an exhaustive look at sigils. This is the way that I use them and we use them in Magnum Opus. So again, a lot of people use these different ways, different methods, everything from the creation of them, where they put them, how they facilitate them, what they ultimately do with them, and then the disposition of those sigils as well. And this may change from ritual to ritual as well. So it really depends on what your objectives are as to how you're going to proceed with this. So this is pre-recorded, just like most of my messages inside these events. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave some questions in the comments if you have those. When we come back, I'll try to address some of those questions if you have those. So without further ado, here are sigils.
Satan, Lucifer, Belial, Leviathan, Samael.
In this lecture, I will be discussing sigils and the use of sigils in magic. First, let's charge the words. Satanas, we ask for your divine guidance to open the gates of infernal wisdom for the listener. Demons of the pit, reveal that which is beyond the veil. So mote it be. The references for this lecture will be Satanism and Devil Worship, Magnae Sapientiae Satanas, The Temple of Set by Michael Lucchino, Book of Satanic Ritual, and a Satanic Grimoire. There will also be other references that I will cite, and I will actually call those out. A sigil is a type of symbol used in ritual magic. Sometimes refers to a symbolic representation of the practitioner's desired outcome, such as in chaos magic. It's also a type of pictorial signature of a demon or other entity used in satanic magic. One thing that the practitioner should pay close attention to is that the sigil itself is not a protection mechanism until it is charged, and even then it will not be able to protect you from certain demonic entities. You have to understand that these entities can and do transverse the parallax into the other dimensional voids. So always keep in mind that these particular entities are not pets and should not be treated as such. The methodology for using sigils has really evolved over time. However, that evolution stays very honest to its earliest recorded applications. So the idea is the sigil is implanted into the subconscious mind, and the sigil speaks to your unconscious mind. Note that there are temporary or there are permanent sigils. Some are created to actually be destroyed, while others are created to keep, and they may be affixed to a type device such as a talisman or something to that effect. So just bear in mind there are temporary and permanent sigils. Sigils are often embedded into or melted onto ceremonial candles as well. Austin Osman Spare wrote about sigils and using sigils, and as quoted from the Temple of Set, Spare elaborated his sigils by condensing letters of the alphabet into diagrammatic glyphs of desire, which were to be integrated into a postural, like yoga, practices. Also, monograms of thought for the government of energy, and we see this actual display here is of the individual letters and signs as he created. Going a step further, Aquino says his most important magical contribution is the concept of sigilization. Its process is basically as follows. He would define his desires in a clear, direct, written form, such as, "This is my wish." He would then sigilize each phrase using the individual letters and not repeating those letters. Then he would combine the sigils and simplify again. So, taking the entire written phrase and then reducing it into consonants and deleting the vowels as they tend to repeat over and over again. I used sigils in dedicating my book of Satanic Ritual. I actually recorded part of the dedication event here where she kisses the pages, and her fluids have been used to draw the sigil of Satan upon the manuscript. From the standpoint of desires, we see a lot of translation of information through pictorial type instruments. So here we show a symbology of the devil as in the form of Pan, actually taking his chosen one. And so this comes from Dionysus des Busen, the Busen being translated into the evil ones. Entities are sometimes represented, and for Satanism and devil worship especially, the sigil represents specific entities, and individual practitioners often use the corresponding sigil to call upon specific allies who act as agents of magical change for the practitioner. And as noted earlier, glyphs or sigils are often embedded into or melted onto ceremonial candles as a practice. To create the sigil, we look at a passage from Magia Sexualis by Hugh Urban. To create the sigil, one simply writes out the letters of one's wish, then deletes all repeated letters, and combines the remaining characters into an ideogram. This will then be the focus of one's meditation. In order to charge the sigil and bring it into reality, however, one must enter an altered level of consciousness, trance, deep meditation, or ecstasy. The best means of achieving such a state is through sheer exhaustion. When you're drawing your sigil, you will start with the overall desire and reduce that desire to some type of symbology, even through the written letters if you're using letters to write out the desire. You will record that onto a piece of paper, usually parchment paper. Parchment burns really well, and it also lasts as well if you're going to do a semi-permanent sigil and maybe place it somewhere so that it may act. Parchment paper would certainly do well for doing that. Also, bear in mind, you'll want to write in your grimoire your results, and even after the ceremony or the ritual, or just simply activating and using the sigil, you will still want to record that in your grimoire so that you can come back later and use that same symbol, especially if it is very effective in achieving your desired outcome. Sigils can be in symbol type form, it can be words, and it can even be letters as discussed earlier. Some of the sigils, as you see on this page, represent certain entities or deities or desires or the individual lettering, such as we saw in our lesson on the Theban alphabet and the use of that alphabet as well. So those things can be used when creating and using your sigil. Aleister Crowley wrote a lot about not only sigils and how to make sigils, but also in the drawing itself and the direction to use when making such pen strokes to actually draw out. And he broke it down into the individual word, letter, symbol, or sign, and then he broke that down into two categories of invoking and banishing as well. In Grimoire Verum, we see some instances here of the letters and the individual circle representing the sigil. Enochian is also used, and Aleister Crowley wrote extensively about Enochian and how to incorporate that. But there's also the alphabet that can be used, but there is also individual words from Enochian that can be used as well. And there's a very helpful dictionary that is actually located in the Enochian world of Aleister Crowley, which deals with sex magic. It not only gives the word, but it gives the phonetic pronunciation so that you are pronouncing it correctly, and then the translation into English. It's a very good reference, and I advise you to go and take a look at that because it is really good, especially when doing recitations during your rituals, to make sure that the phonetic pronunciation is accurate. We also see mantric sigils, And they follow the same convention. Basically, I am blank, I need, I want, I wish, I desire, or what have you. And we see in this example from Walking Between the Worlds, Techniques of Modern Shamanism, Volume 1 by Phil Hine, the desire that I want to dream of the monkey spirit. And then it goes into exactly what the mantra is going to be and how to actually construct it. A very good reference here. And don't forget that, again, the sigil can be in written form. It can also be audible as well. We see in the book Devil Worship the symbol versus sigil. So we see the symbol of the devil here, and the symbol of the devil could be used as a sigil itself. Continuing in symbolism and sigilization, we also see it evolve into the actual tarot cards. And so some of the attributes of the tarot may be used in the specialization of the individual sigil. In magnum opus, we often use a sigil by beginning with the interwoven unicursal encircled heptagram. And I speak about this in Satanism and Devil Worship, but its uses are really varied because you can begin with this base sigil, and then you can actually customize as needed. So it represents the within and without, while capturing all of the different elemental things needed for your individual ritual. We also see in Liber Iuratus, we see the representation of the interwoven unicursal encircled heptagram. The book is also known as the Sworn Book of Honorius. And again, that's not a misspelling of book. That is actually the spelling in the title. And then we also have the interwoven unicursal encircled hexagram. And this is a powerful symbol that is used by magnum opus as well. It can be used as a sigil, again moving from sigil into more of an elaborate representation that can be used on your altar or used as a tapestry backdrop as well. There are also self-styled sigils, and I recommend that you experiment. Again, that's the reason why you want to keep your grimoire updated, because certain things will work better than other things, and you want to be able to quickly go back and review that information and be able to reproduce those desired outcomes in the future. So this really gives you a baseline and a place to start. When you charge the sigil, the actual charging is done with energy, and you're actually propelling it into your unconscious mind. There are different parts of the sigil or different phases of the sigil. So there's the construction of the sigil, there is the charging of the sigil, and there is the disposition of the sigil as well. Often the sigil is burned, as in a temporary sigil. Here I am demonstrating burning the sigil that I created, during this particular satanic ritual and burning and capturing the ashes in the individual plate that I'm holding in my left hand. The individual process for the sigil is starting by gazing at the sigil for several minutes. And what you're wanting to do is you're wanting to let the sigil kind of meld through your third eye into the mind. You'll light the sigil over a fireproof dish. You'll let your mind become empty and watch the sigil burn. The final disposition of the ashes is going to be according to what your needs are and what the desired outcomes of the working are. Burning the sigil, obviously, and sprinkling, burying, mixing the ashes. Again, this goes back to exactly what the objectives of the magical working are as to what the disposition of the ashes are going to be from the sigil. And once again, don't forget the ends. Eat, nest, drink, and scribe. And you should capture that every time in your grimoire. If you do not have a grimoire, I designed a grimoire. It is a hardback copy, and they're designed where you can fill one up. You can actually record in the front what number grimoire, from what date, and what have you. And you can build an entire library of these so you can easily go back and grab whichever one you need from a time period, or you may break these down associated with ritual, satanic practice, sigils, really what have you. You can actually break it down as you would like. But don't forget the last important element of this, and that is to scribe. So I hope you enjoyed this presentation. Let me know what you think. And again, sigil use is a process, and using that process more and more will make you more comfortable with it and ultimately more effective. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you have questions, drop them into the comments. So what I like to do personally, if I'm trying to achieve a certain objective, is I will take that objective, whatever it is, that desire, and I will take that piece of paper and I will record that desire. And again, eliminating the vowels and kind of thinning it down where it will fit on the actual parchment page. Obviously, praying and dedicating this particular sigil and charging it with satanic energy, and then taking it from there and doing whatever is needed. Some rituals will require that you place that sigil in a certain place. Not destroy it, not burn it, but just put it in a certain place. Some will require that you burn it and then you dispose of the ashes in a certain fashion. So that may be burying the ashes, that may be mixing it, maybe into something else, using it for an alchemical type process. It could be an added ingredient into actually creating something for alchemical work in a future ritual. And so there are a lot of different ways to dispose of the ritual itself. And it's highly personalized as well. I've had questions from people who have seen pictures of me in the ritual chamber, kind of simulating a ritual, and they would ask, "Well, what are the glyphs? What are the things written on the page that you have in front of you?" And so some of that is the recitation that I'm going to use, that I've prepared beforehand. Some of that, it may be alchemical. It may be that I need to mix certain things together at the altar. And then some of it may just be the desire as recorded on the sigil. So from there, you can take this and you can make it highly individualized, especially when you're applying the Theban alphabet to it. Now, I've heard some people say, well, it's the Theban. We come from the Germanic line in our practice. So the H is silent, just like Lufthansa. It's not Lufthansa, it's Lufthansa. And so anyway, that's neither here nor there, but some people will latch on to those type things and say, well, the guy can't even pronounce the alphabet. You can pronounce it how you want to pronounce it. But in using that alphabet and taking certain symbols, and again, creating the methodology that you're going to use, as I shared with you in previous episodes. I think I did an episode just on the Theban, and so how we use it in Magnum Opus. And so by combining those things together, then you begin to be able to really use it and take advantage of it, where you get the best return and your magic is most effective. So I do have a couple of questions. Let's see here. What are your thoughts on the Goetic sigils? I don't use those. I have nothing against those. I don't use those in my form of practice. Some people do. The main thing about a sigil is any sigil can be used and it can be powerful. What makes the sigil powerful is the charging of the sigil. So if you take any sigil, even a sigil that you have created with your desire, and you charge it correctly, and you charge it with the power of Satanas, then it's going to be a powerful sigil. So I've read about the Goetic. I've seen them, but I don't use them, and it's not a derogatory or negative comment. It's just that I don't use them. So Marie, I hope that answered the question for you. I have another one here from Kendra. Do you think it's wise to create personal sigil and keep it always in your grimoire? Also, what are your thoughts about tattooing a personal sigil on your person? So the first part of that is, if you're going to create your sigil and you're going to keep it around, make sure that you take proper precautions in doing that. Remember, this is kind of your identification, so to speak. So you would not want that to fall into the wrong hands. Not that a person could, injure you with it, but they certainly could use that energy, and they could use it against you in certain situations. So I would recommend, if you're going to do that, make sure that you keep it in a good location. What you might want to do is you might want to take that and you might want to just, lock it away somewhere. If you're keeping it in your grimoire, just making sure that it is secure, and it should be secure anyway. I highly recommend that you keep your grimoire safe. You keep it away from prying eyes, you keep it away from people that may stumble upon it. And that's for your protection, but also for their protection as well. I've seen some people, on YouTube, some of these plastic witches, and they'll show their grimoire, and it's like that. No, don't do that. I mean, yeah, sure, their grimoire may not mean anything, and it may just be bullshit that they wrote down before the show. Okay, I'll give you that. However, what you don't want to do is you don't want to share that with the general public. Really, you don't share that with very many people. I share my individual grimoire, with the members of Magnum Opus. But that's because we have practiced for a long time, for one, together. Secondly, it's because they truly understand what is meant. They know how I record my things in the grimoire. So they can make sense of it, they can use it, and it can be effective. So I hope that answers that question. Now the second part of that is, what are your thoughts on tattooing it on your person? Well, if you're going to do that, I would put it in a very, very private place. Again, I wouldn't put it on my arm or anything like that. Again, I would try to not have that public. If you have done it and you have it, then you have it. But I just really wouldn't advertise. 9 times out of 10, people that are going to see it, if it's in a public place, are not going to know what it is anyway. And if the question comes up, you can either tell them straightforward, or you can just say, I like this tattoo, I like this design, and I decided to do that. And so, again, it goes back to personal preference. But I would say just protect that. Protect that, because it is your mark. And what you don't want is your mark ending up on someone else's altar table to do some kind of diabolical work against you. So I hope that helps. Let's see, Spencer, what are your thoughts on the concept of your occult name? Whoops, got a little refresh there. Sorry, where did it go? With your occult name being aligned with your life path number. Yeah, absolutely. I see no reason why it could not be. In a lot of circles that are truly experts on numerology and things like that, we know that numbers and math and science, algebra and physics and all these different sciences come together, and we know that those are true because they can be proven, right? And so there is a lot of value in that, and by finding your particular number and aligning that certainly will help you to build power. So I hope that gets your answer there, Spencer. Okay, I've got another one here. Do some sigil glyph alphabets work better for some things than others? I would say that in my experience, my particular glyphs that I have created And a lot of the Egyptian glyphs work really, really well. Um, as far as alphabets, I know one practitioner. She is very, very powerful. She does not use any type of like Theban or anything like that. What she does is she writes it out just, in our English alphabet. I also know, as kind of associated with that, one of the members in our parent coven in Germany, in Bavaria, they do the same thing, but obviously they have different symbols in their alphabet, right? Like the slash S and and the umlauts and things like that. Um, so they have more letters, and I actually got a question from, I think it may have been Malthorpe at one time. He said, I noticed on one of your sheets that you had at a certain ritual that there were some things in there. I could kind of pick up some of, the Theban, but there were some symbols I did not recognize. And the reason why is because those characters are not represented in the English alphabet. And so those are the ones that are like the double S's and the umlauts and things like that. We simply don't have those. So yeah, they're going to look a little bit strange to you, especially if you're familiar with the Theban. And after using it so much, you can actually get to the point where you can recognize certain things. You can recognize probably common phrases, as the very beginning, because you'll see certain things. It's just like in any language. You'll see a word, and that word will be used over and over and over in the language. And so those are the ones that you will learn fastest, just simply because you'll see those over and over again. So let's see. I think those were the questions that I had here. So thank you for those very good questions. Very good questions. Again, it's something that can be highly individualized, and I encourage you to take it and make it your own. Some of the script that we use and some of the glyphs that we use, no one would be able to understand those, because as I covered in my Theban lesson, there is passive cover and then there's covert cover. And even passive cover, because we have used certain things that mean certain things to us, no one else would get a value out of it. And that would be something that even at passive cover, they would not understand what it was. Now, if we wanted to go deeper and we really wanted to go into covert cover, then we have certain things that we would use as well. And as we talked about during that lesson of the Theban, you can formulate your script however you want to. For example, you may start from left to right, you may start from up to down, down to up, right to left. In fact, most of the ancients, if you look at the script and you look at the glyphs, they're from right to left, because that's the way that the language is and has been. And so you can really take that and you can make it your own. So, very good questions. Thank you very much for participating and putting those questions out there. So let me take a quick look here at our poll. So again, do you use sigils in your magical practice? So we've got 10 people that say yes, and we have 2 that say no. So predominantly 83% of you do use sigils, and I think that's a pretty good representation across the left-hand path. as far as utilizing these, because they are powerful. And the main thing with magic is being able to make it your own and individualize it. And so they are really, really good to use. So this week's question and answer is absolutely dedicated to Brian. So Brian, I don't know if you're on here. I certainly hope that you are. Let me take a look and see if unless you're under another name, I don't even see you there. But anyway, I promised you that I would answer these questions. Brian sent me an email, and it was very long, and that's quite common. People are wanting to, once they catch your attention, they're wanting to get in as many questions as they possibly can. So Brian, this is dedicated to you. And also I'll say prost to everyone. A little green tea here with a lot of sediment. So the first one, and I kind of paraphrased these questions as well so I could get them all to fit on here. So what happens to the consciousness of a practitioner when the time comes to cross over? So this question is about death, okay? About the physical death. So first of all, we are all going to die. No big surprise there, okay? Our physical body is going to end one day, and our physical body is going to turn into, if it's buried, some kind of dust or whatever, as it decomposes. If you're going to be cremated like I plan to be, then you're just going to turn to ash, and that's going to be the end of your existence in the physical. However, we do go on, and I have talked about this during some of my episodes during this Satanic Processes series. We do go on. We don't end. What we have done, the knowledge that we have gained, those experiences that we have had will go with us. We pack that up in our cognitive suitcase, and we carry that with us over beyond the veil. So you've heard me talk about summoning and bringing people and from the past, and bringing demons and things like that through the veil to help during rituals, and obviously your guardian demon being one of those. So when you cross over, when that death event happens, then your energy, and that's what we are, we're energy, nothing more, nothing less when it comes to the spirit, that energy continues on. And it is just like a residual energy. If you have something plugged into the wall, some kind of appliance, and you unplug it and immediately stick a fork into the toaster, you may get zapped a little bit because there is a little bit of residual left over. The thing is, we're limited by our three dimensions, and we're limited by our senses. So it's not that we just go poof, but what we do is we transverse the veil, and we go into these other areas called the paradox. And inside that, obviously, is where the astral is, and I've talked about that during episodes here as well. And so once you do breach that and you go to the other side, that is where you exist. And you do carry your cognitive arrangements, your mind and your experiences, your memories from what has happened here into there. And then some will take on a form of being a mentor or a tutor to those who are trapped in this 3 dimensions and are calling for those people beyond the veil, like the demons that we work with. And so that is the explanation of what happens when we do the crossover. So you carry that with you, but one big advantage is when you cross over, you now get the abilities and the senses to be able to grasp what is truly over there. If you could see that right now, you would not be able to grasp it. First of all, you can't see it, you can't sense it. We're limited. But one day you will not be, and you will have all the sensory receptors that you need. And for those of you who say, well, we only have, this many senses, and, smell, taste, and all this kind of stuff, it has been proven that we have neuro sensing right now. And it's true. If you have ever done a ritual, you know that the neuro sensing is what you receive through vibrations, through mantras, through the creation of waveforms, through low frequency oscillations, and even the feelings that you get around EMF. And I talked about that as well, and some of the uses of some of the stones to be able to help with that. With the new Wi-Fi that's coming, this 5G, which is going to be so powerful. But remember, all of these things are wavelengths and they're EMF, and they're around us all the time and bombarding us all the time. And we can't see them, but they are there, right? And so to kind of get back on track, I digress, but yes, you do get to carry those things over. Plus, you get some wonderful bonuses to go with that, in the fact that you get to know and you get the revelation that Satanas has for all of us, and all things will be known. The second question, quid pro quo, as to what price is being paid. So there's a lot of questions about when I say the relationship with Satanas and demons is quid pro quo. So what is an example from your experience of some of these things that the demons want, or what can you offer them? And so you see in some rituals, some of the things that you use, like sigils, some people will use fingernail trimmings, hair, personal items like that. These are things that are offered as well, depending on the ritual itself. Money is offered as a sacrifice as well. People say, well, you're just saying that to make more money. No, I'm saying that because what is important to you that you sacrifice is the sacrifice. So if money is important to you and you want to hold on to it and you don't want to do anything with it, that may be the very thing that you need to sacrifice some of to get a blessing. Now, you have to give to get. It's the way the world works. It's the way that everything works. Okay? Satan is not a being that is represented like the Christ in Christianity, that just wants to hang out with you and float on a cloud and, maybe strum a little, roll is called up yonder or some shit like that. That is not the case. Satan will have a relationship with you. But Satan does not remain in a relationship that is not two ways. Okay? Get this. If you're not meeting him 50%, and that's through your sacrifice of things that you like and are valuable to you, your meditation, your ritual, your calling upon him, and acting on what he gives you, then he's just basically going to say, I don't have time. I don't have time. And none of us have time for leeches, what Anton LaVey referred to as psychic vampires. No one has time for that. And so Satanas and the demons are the same way. They are not there for you to go to and moan and groan and, oh, life is so unfair to me, and, and meanwhile he's saying, well, make a sacrifice. What do you love the most? Give a little of that away. It can be as simple as your time. Well, I don't want to spend any time. I don't want to invest any time on that. I don't want to read any books. Well, okay then. What you do and how you invest in yourself is going to be the results that you get. Let me say that again. What you invest in yourself is what you're going to get. So if you don't want to give money, you don't want to give time, you don't want to take on any of the real work, you just kind of want to show up and chat every once in a while, fine, nothing wrong with that. But then don't get mad at Satanas because he is not giving you what you're asking for and what you're wanting. So that's how that works. Question number 3. He has a family and he wants to protect them. So what can he do to keep his family safe when he is practicing? So obviously staying within your capability is number 1, and I recommend that to any of the neophytes and even acolytes as well. The old saying, a little bit of knowledge is dangerous, and it certainly is. And there are certain aspects of it that you absolutely do not want to go over your maybe self-imposed limitations, right? I see this as being a box, and that box itself is your limitations, right? And as long as you stay in that box, what happens is over time, as you're practicing, your box is going to get bigger. It's going to be bigger. It doesn't mean that it goes away, but it will get bigger over time. And so knowing where those limitations are, I would say, is probably the number 1 thing that I would recommend. Number 2 is answer questions if they ask. And this is, really not from a protection standpoint. This is more of being open and honest. So I know some practitioners that, I don't want to say they hide in the shadows, but, they're closet Satanists, closet devil worshippers. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that at all. You do what you think you should do and what makes you comfortable, okay? Nothing wrong with that. However, if someone asks you, if they know you, like family, before long, they're going to catch on to something. I mean, they're going to smell some incense, wafting around, or they're going to see some candles laying around. And, one day the question is going to come up, Daddy, what are you doing? They're going to hear something going on in your temple, and they're going to go, what are you doing? And so just being open and honest when that opportunity presents itself. Again, unlike established religion, we don't try to convert people. I don't want to convert anyone. That's not what we're about. We're about sharing information if someone wants that information. If they don't want it, fine. Absolutely great. So just being honest, and then when that time comes and people ask about it, if they do, just, again, using your common sense, or your best judgment, I should say, give them the information that you think you should. Don't give it all to them in one sitting. Obviously, some people can't handle that. So you kind of have to stick your toe in the water and see, what the first few words means to them. And then you can kind of go from there. And then the fourth question: where should someone new to ritual begin? I can't tell you how many times I get this question. So there's a lot of good resources out there, okay? My earlier books cover some of the aspects of ritual, but there are some fantastic books out there. First of all, Marie, who is on here, I think Marie is still with us. Are you there? Yeah. Marie Ravensoul. So I have absolutely, I've got her book. She's working on another book. If you don't have it, it has some wonderful dedications. It has some psalms. It has some things that you can use in your rituals, and then using that information and kind of bouncing that against other sources, then you can kind of begin to develop, what you're wanting to do. Now on my Patreon, I have entire rituals, including dedication and things like that, that are in audio. And it's as simple as turning it on and listening to it. So a lot of good information there. Also, Kendra. Kendra has a book that is out. I think she's got a couple books. One of them is in my library that I bought here recently, and it will give you some fantastic ideas as well to kind of dig into that. Take ritual, make it your own, but it does give you a good template or a good place to start. For the neophyte, many times it's an awkward journey at first, because you're doing a lot of different things that feel kind of awkward. You're doing some things that you may not be comfortable with at first, but over time you will get past that. And the main thing I would say is, in any ritual, and as you begin to build your grimoire, right? Record in your grimoire. So you can always go back to that, and you can always look and see what ritual you did. Write the ritual out in your grimoire, and then write your results. That's part of the ends. Eat, nest, drink, and scribe that I have people do after a ritual. Grab that book, grab that, and start writing immediately. Don't wait till tomorrow, okay? You're going to miss some of the subtle nuances, and I like to say sometimes the devil will beat you over the head with a hammer, and you'll miss it. You'll miss it. I've done it in the past, because I would overlook something that is very minute, and I'll say, yeah, it's not really important, but I'll write it down anyway, and then I'll come back to that in a few days or a week or even months from then, and I'll read that and go, I got it. Thank you, so mote it be. And so writing that and recording that is very important. So I would recommend those sources. And there's a lot of other great ones out there. I mean, I could list these all day long, but those are really wonderful. The Grimoire of Tiamat that I use a lot in references in these episodes is a good one as well to kind of take a look at. Take the kind of the mechanics of it, so to speak. And there's a lot of good grimoires out there, especially if you're working with like Lilith. There's some really good stuff out there as well, and I cite those in my episodes as well, as you've probably seen. So, Brian, I hope that those questions, were sufficiently answered. Thank you for those questions, and I certainly hope, under Satan's light, that everyone hearing this has received a blessing from those answers. Next week, alchemy. So this is a subject that I love to talk about. I can really get long-winded. If you think that I'm long-winded right now, alchemy is something that I just love. And we're going to trace alchemy from some of the beginnings in antiquity, and we're going to kind of bring a historical view of it in, and kind of as an overview. And I will say, this question comes up a lot: is chemistry related to alchemy? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. In fact, I go further to say that alchemy is the father of modern chemistry, because so many people have worked excuse me, in alchemy before they went on to do great things in chemistry, or even the other sciences. For instance, Sir Isaac Newton did wonderful work in alchemy, but he had to kind of sneak around, and alchemy was not very popular. In fact, a lot of people thought that it was associated with devil worship. And so you had to be very cautious. You wouldn't want to end up on the end of someone's spear, or end up with some, priest questioning you about this. But I do think that alchemy is the father of chemistry itself. And so we're going to dive into that, and we're going to look at that in episode 9 of this series. So again, I thank you so very much for being here. I'm going to check the questions one more time. We're coming up on about an hour and a half here, so looks like there are no further questions there. All right, we've got some good chat there. Very good. Cindy, I'm glad that you made it. Thank you so much for that comment. She says thank you. Hope to join your Patreon. Absolutely. Absolutely. Love to have you. Again, my Patreons make this possible. And in fact, there are plans from $5 up, and you get everything except for personal guidance. The personal guidance is in the higher tiers, but you get everything. And quite honestly, if you sat down and you went through everything from the last 2 years of my Patreon, and you reviewed the videos, you reviewed the audio, you went through all of the writings, all of the articles, all of the things that I've shared, the Satanic prayers, and the things that people can just go and listen to anywhere on your phone, at work, whatever. It would take you about 6 weeks to get through all of that information. So consider becoming a member. It certainly helps. It offsets the cost of lights and software and obviously the work that I'm doing. The desire is to make this a worldwide platform that people can come to, that they trust, that is consistent, and that has good information that people can use. That's my desire, and that's what I ask Satanas sincerely for. And you make that possible being a Patreon. No two ways about it. Thank you so much to my Patreons tonight for making this possible. You sponsored this event out of the goodness of your heart, and we have been able to broadcast this worldwide tonight, and it could not have happened without you. And for those friends that I haven't seen you for a while, it's so good to see you. So good to have you over here. I will be doing these from time to time so people can catch up. And I do understand that some people truly can't afford the Patreon. And it's for you that I will do these from time to time so that you can take part. And I love seeing you. I love hearing from you. And I send all of you satanic blessings. So again, Satanas, thank you so much for tonight. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for each and every person that has been here. Thank you so much for everything you have done. I send satanic blessings to each person here under the sound of my voice and under your power. So mote it be. Blessings to each one of you. Thank you so much. And I wish you the very best, and I wish you the very best of satanic blessings for the coming week. So until next time, this has been Aleister Nacht. Hail Satan.